Hello and good morning. Welcome to this little meditation on the 11th Sunday of Ordinary Time. Today, Jesus uses parables. Parables are short stories, and they're used by Jesus whenever he wants to speak close to someone's heart. And his teaching is not just truth. His teaching is all about love. At once they knew how to love the way he loves and care the way that he cares. The mustard seeds could become centres for all the birds in the sky, and they could come down and nest and have their little chicks and fill the world with joy and peace. The Word is made flesh and dwells among us. Hear him, love him, follow him. The prophet Isaiah installed in the people a message of hope. He uses the metaphor of a small shoot, which is similar to Isaiah's image of the stump of Jesse, in order to describe the revitalization of Israel. I will plant it, the shoot, myself on a high mountain of Israel. It will sprout branches and bear much fruit. The shoot here refers to God's faithful remnants, who remain steadfast in the midst of adversity, and who turn to form the nucleus of Israel after their exile. It was out of these faithful remnants that God's anointed would emerge. The kingdom of God does not manifest itself in size, in success, in power. Instead, it is found in the smallness of a mustard seed, in the poverty of the widow's mite, in the rarity of the pearl, in the insignificance of the wheat, the yeast. These images are essentially countercultural. In other words, they challenge the prevalent attitude about greatness, success, and power. Jesus teaches something quite radical through these parables. He teaches us that God's kingdom, though has begun in dishonour and ignominy, but it will reach its fulfilment in a way that defies human expectations. We are living in our world at the moment in a time of diminishment as far as the church's size and influence seem to be concerned. But if the kingdom is like a mustard seed, then the size of our institutional church is not as important as the quality of its witness. In a world of changing values and a crisis of trust, we must adhere to the constant message of faith, hope, and love for all. We must continue, as Pope Francis always maintains, to be a church where everyone can feel welcomed, loved, forgiven, and encouraged to live the gospel. As long as we embody that vision of the church in our practice, we become the lighthouse for the world. May we learn the art of vitality in smallness and increase the quality of our faith and relationship in this seemingly fallow time. Part of the reason we get discouraged is that we are victims of bigness. Every day we read in our newspapers about famous people doing famous things. We have mega shopping malls, mega churches, mega storms. In contrast, Jesus spoke of the importance of small things: a mustard seed, a cup of cold water, a widow's mite, a kindness done to the least of the people. Jesus knows that too often we forget. The size of the bush and the healthy spread of the branches depend on the vitality of the seed. No one can say, "I cannot be used." An old song says, "If you can use anything, Lord, then you can use me." If we look back to some of the characters of the Old Testament and the New Testament, we realise that this is very true. Noah was known to be drunk. Abraham was seen to be too old. Isaac was a daydreamer. Jacob was a liar. Joseph was abused. Moses was a murderer and had a stuttering problem. Rahab was a prostitute. Jeremiah and Timothy were too young. David had had an affair and was a murderer. Jonah ran away from God. Job went bankrupt and was depressed. Peter denied Christ. The disciples all fell asleep while praying. Martha worried about everything. The Samaritan woman was divorced more than once. Zacchaeus was too small. Paul seemed to be too religious, and yet they all had an important part to play in the growth of the kingdom here on earth. Thank you very much.